Welcome to my podcast story, the show where podcasters share the real journey behind their voices, from their first mic check to their biggest milestones. Every episode reveals the lessons, challenges, and breakthrough that shape a podcast star's journey. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I can't wait for you to hear today's story. In today's episode of my podcast story, we have Franky Corcoran, the dynamic host behind the Corcoran Entertainment Show. His weekly podcast dives into what's happening in the entertainment industry, covering everything from movies and TV to theater and local arts in Miramichi, New Brunswick. Franky brings a wealth of creative experience to his show as a playwright, author, director, and founder of Corcoran Entertainment. His journey began in high school drama back in 2013, and he's since crafted an impressive career spanning community theater, writing original plays, and even appearing in New Brunswick-based sitcoms. What makes Franky's podcasting story special is how he seamlessly blends his multifaceted artistic background into creating conversations that not only entertain but inspire others to pursue their creative passion. He's here to share his journey of building a podcast that truly listens as much as it speaks, and how he's using his platform to spotlight both mainstream entertainment and local artistic voices. Tell
Absolutely,
us
yep.
your name and what you do.
All right, well, my name is Franky Corcoran. I am the host of the Corcoran Entertainment Show podcast. Can be found on all podcasting platforms. I'm also a actor, theater director, playwright, and just overall entertainment enthusiast. Dog lover. I love dogs too. And yeah, just very excited to be on this podcast.
Yeah, well, welcome to the podcast, Frank.
Well, yes, it's my pleasure, man. And as I mentioned before, you're doing great stuff with
Thank
yours.
you.
So, I'm very honored that you asked me to be on.
What's the name of your podcast and what's your podcast about?
My podcast is called the Corcoran Entertainment Show. It releases every Tuesday on all podcasting platforms. And just recently, we actually started doing the occasional Thursday episode. It's just a bonus episode with just a bonus interview. We've gotten so many amazing guests, so try my best to squeeze them all in when it's convenient for my scheduling and all that stuff with that. But the Corcoran Entertainment Show is a entertainment based podcast that started. Corcoran Entertainment is my theatrical, or like my own creative pursuit. It's started off as simply just a theater company. We just did theater. That was it. So because I started it during COVID, I didn't really have much to do in the downtime. We can't be doing plays. We can't be in the same room or anything like that, let alone having a big crowd of people. So I said, what's a way that I can keep the brand going, but not do theater? And so I thought podcasting would be a great way to do it. And so we've been going since January 2022. It's been going. It's one of those things that you don't really expect it to happen. You know what I mean? Like, this is kind of one of those things that just happened. Had no inkling this is where it would end up. No inkling that you and I would end up talking to each other right now. So it's been a great journey, and met a lot of people. I've interviewed some people who I've looked up to for years and didn't think I'd ever be able to get on the show. And it's been quite the journey. Absolutely, it has been. And so everybody can feel free to listen to it wherever you listen to your podcasts. And it always means the world. I mean, I'm sure you probably know, in a world with, like, I think I looked it up, it was like a million or so podcasts out there, and people who take the time to listen to mine, and people who take the time to listen to yours, it really means a lot, because it really makes us feel like we're doing something right. You know what I mean? We're impacting people in some way, and it's just a lot of fun too. It's just what we love to do. Audio only right now. I used to do the video as well too, but it got to the point that I was doing so much work in the video side of things for very little reward. When I looked at the analytics and I looked at the numbers and stuff, I said it just doesn't really make sense for me anyway. I mean, lots of people are different. Some people get more views through their video versions and stuff. But for me, it was more so you look at the numbers, and it's audio. Audio is where I mean that's where I listen to all mine too. I mean, I very rarely watch video podcasts. I very rarely any podcasters that I do listen to, like Conan O'Brien, Bill Burr, all those amazing people. I mostly just do it through Spotify, and that's kind of become like my main uh platform for podcasting now. And so audio only. I'm definitely not opposed to doing more video again, but I mean, like, in terms of, when you're
Yeah.
grinding, and I'm working on a multitude of different projects as well too. So it's one of those things of, get the interview, record all the other stuff that goes into the episode, editing takes a lot too. I mean, you know
Yeah.
that too as a podcaster yourself. And so I just, took a look at it and said, yeah, maybe someday I'll go back to doing videos of it, but for now it's audio
Well,
only.
I'm curious, what does a typical episode structure look like?
So the regular Tuesday episodes, which is normally every week, as I mentioned, we do the second bonus episode on Thursdays, but that's mostly, I've been able to do mostly every Thursday this year, but there has been the odd time I haven't been able to do it. But so normally the episode begins. I have some amazing brands that I work with, so throw in some advertisements for them, and do a little intro for any. A lot of my listeners are locally from where I am here in Miramichi, so I will do some shout outs, some stuff maybe, since I do plays as well too. I'm always doing events. So if there's something going on in the community, I'll do like, a little plug, make it more feel more like radio, like just before we start, we got this going on here and all that. And then we'll do the guest interview, which a lot of times depends. Sometimes it's 40-ish, 50-ish minutes. It really just depends on how the conversation goes. And then I will do a segment at the end of it where I talk about entertainment news, stuff that's come out in the news, like, I don't know, for example, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. Or something major that happened in the industry. So I'll normally pick two topics, and then I'll kind of just give my thoughts on that stuff at the end. The final 10 or so minutes of the show. Just to kind of make it a little bit more, so there's more than just the interview. I always like to give a little more. I mean, I always love those types of podcasts where you're like, okay, the interview's done, but there's more to it. So that's normally the format. And then for the Thursday episode, starts off with just regular intro, and then it's just the interview. A lot of times it's there's no segment afterwards where I'm doing the entertainment news and stuff like that. It's just the interview, and then we'll see you guys again next week for next week's episode
Oh,
type deal.
thank you for walking us through what a typical structure looks like. I'm curious
Yeah.
to know the behind the scenes of the podcast. What does it take to make an episode, right? What apps, tools, who produces it, from idea, from concept down to say, okay, yeah, an episode is ready. Let's press publish.
I think definitely I've gotten better with a lot of because when I started off, I mean, as I mentioned, this whole thing started off as I want to do Corcoran Entertainment as just theater, and then it kind of branched out to podcasting, and the podcast has kind of become like, in my opinion, it's been like Corcoran Entertainment's main people here that go, oh yeah, that's that podcast, right? So which is really good. It's just one of those things of, you didn't expect, when I started this, I didn't expect that the podcast would end up being more recognizable in a way than the plays are. But it's kind of funny how things work too. But I've definitely gotten better in regard to making sure the audio quality is the best it can be. I always think back to the earlier episodes and stuff like that. I've heard of people who do this. I don't do this myself personally. They go back to their early episodes, they hear how bad the audio quality is, and they delete all those
Wow.
episodes. Just, I don't want to think about it. And to me, I'm like, okay, I get it, but I don't operate like that. I am more so of it's good for people to look back on it and see that, okay, everybody starts off in some way, shape, or form. I started off, I never even had this Shure mic. I started off with just it was literally the crappiest looking Staples microphone, this very, very cheap Staples mic that was like, 15
Yeah.
bucks. That's what I started off with. And then, through some grants and stuff like that, amazing grants. Shout out to Rising Youth, the Youth Partnership Initiative, and Multicultural Association here in Miramichi. Anybody listening locally, for helping with funding and getting another type of mic, which is a AT 2020 is what it's called. And I used that for probably about a good 2 years. And then I eventually upgraded, saved enough to get this mic here, which has become kind of like my bread and butter. This right here, the Shure MV7. Essentially, if you guys listen to Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, those bigger type podcasters, I guess you could say this is kind of the mic they use, but except in this case, it's a USB mic. Like, it's literally just plug in. This is just plugged into my computer right now. I don't need no mixers. I don't need nothing like that. And the audio quality is just, it's very crisp. It's very clear. So it's one of those situations where as long as the audio quality sounds good, everything works well, that's really when I'm like, okay, now the episode is ready to go. There's been instances where I look in the audio, I'm like, dude, this is brutal. I can't upload it like this. So there was times where I'm literally spending hours and hours just trying to make the audio sound somewhat good, because then I'd be real picky. I'm like, oh, I hear a crinkling in the background, or I hear this, or I hear that. It's one of those things, like, no matter what, you're not satisfied. And but eventually I got better with it. And so now the process has gotten a lot easier. It's just do the interview, record the stuff, beep boop 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 boop, and then it's good to go. Whereas before it was always just like I'm like grinding my ass off trying to get it all ready and stuff like that. Nowadays it's almost like one of those things I don't really think about, in a way, if that makes any sense, where it's like brushing my teeth. I just do it so many times. It's kind of like just getting up and doing your regular business, using the bathroom, eating breakfast, coffee, stuff like that. Podcasting has kind of become like that for me. It's one of those things of I just do it. And but then, much like coffee, you don't know what you do without it. It's a drug in that regard.
Yeah. So far you mentioned it seems obvious that you're the producer, the writer, the host, amongst many other things for the podcast.
Yep. I'm a playwright. I'm a actor, a theater director, and producer as well too. Corcoran Entertainment, as I said, it is a theater company that I started in 2021. Started to lay the groundwork for it in 2020 during the pandemic and the lockdowns and all that. And then, so then I started writing stuff. I've always been an actor. I've always been doing theater. In my community, I still do lots of other stuff aside from my own. It's one of those things that I can't really imagine what I do without it, to be honest. That's kind of where I am with theater. It's like it's one of those things. It'd be like if you lived in a world where coffee was no longer a thing, or you lived in a world where they shut down every bar in the world. Bars aren't a thing anymore. You're just kind of like, well, what am I going to do for fun? That was always me with acting. And then now I've been able to kind of do it in my own, write my own stuff and produce my own stuff. So then also using the podcast as a platform to promote that stuff and make sure that it's not just theater and plays and stuff, because let's be real, not everybody's into that stuff. Not everybody's into podcasting, so no, you're kind of catering to both. And then I'm sure there's people out there who don't like either.
Quick break. Before we continue, I'd love to invite you to join the My Podcast Story newsletter. Each week, I share highlights from our guest stories, behind-the-scenes podcasting tips, and resources to help you grow your own show. You can sign up at mypodcaststory.com/join. That is mypodcaststory.com/join. Now, let's get back to the episode.
and
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah, but you won't please everybody. So yeah, do a little bit of all that, and it's been a great journey. It really, really has, and I'm lucky and fortunate that I've been able to do it for
Yeah,
so
you
long.
mentioned while you were going through your workflow that the Rising Youth Foundation, they gave you a mic. I'm curious how you got the mic. Was it that they reached out to you to donate to you, or you reached out to them? Like, how did that happen?
They basically have a program, grant programs. They're one of their things was, the organization hasn't really done much of it lately. I think they kind of dissolved a little bit in the following years. So I'm lucky that I was able to get it when I did. And so I knew some very a good friend of mine. Shout out to him. I couldn't have done the podcast without Agib Faisal. If you're listening to this, Agib, I couldn't have done any of this without him. The first 20 or so episodes, he was like my producer, my audio engineer. He did all the editing, all that stuff. He showed me all about how to edit podcasts and everything. So a lot of it was trial and error, but a lot of it was through Agib and his guidance. And so he worked for the organization at this time. He had applied, or he had been with me through meetings when we were applying for the grants. And it's a whole process. I mean, applying for grants and funding and stuff, it's a whole process. It's not just one of those things where you go, I need money, and they go, here you go. There's a whole process. They go, yeah, we'll get back to you. But eventually, yeah, it went through, and we Agib went through with me on Amazon, and he was like, this would probably be the best mic to start off with, which was of course the AT 2020. And so that was a great start. And so that's kind of how it all started with that. It was applied for it, waited to see what happened, got the money, bought the mics, and I still have them. I don't use them now since I saved enough to buy the Shure mic, but I still do have those mics in my filing cabinet over there. And so it's always one of those things. If this breaks or dies someday, I always have lots to go by. But yeah, that's how that started, and thankful for Agib for all of his guidance. He hasn't been able to do stuff with it the last few years because he's a dad now, and so fatherhood. Once you have kids, you get pretty tied up very quickly. So so big shout out to him and to all the people who kept me going, kept on encouraging, the people who helped with literally anything, even what business, I'm not sure what local business got me this sign that I had. This was back when I did the video podcast, but I recently converted an old basement bedroom into a podcast studio. So even though it's audio only, yours I believe is video too, so people can see this. This is where all the magic happens at the Corcoran Entertainment Show. You hear the podcast and you can I wonder what it looks like. This is what it looks like here. This is what I do. And it all started in my bedroom, my very crowded bedroom slash office. Thankfully was able to move that around and get this nice little spot. And it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. And again, just I couldn't have done it without all the people that I mentioned.
Well, tell me a little bit about your theater company, because at the beginning you mentioned that during COVID, of course, because of the social distancing thing, people were not allowed to gather, so you decided to start a podcast. Currently, how's the podcast connected to the theater company, and how is it working as a full ecosystem?
Well, it's worked in a lot of ways. In connections is a big thing. Anytime I share something, the podcast has gotten to the point where I'm interviewing and guesting on lots of podcasts like yourself, podcasts like you, and podcast guests who I've had. Follow them on social media. Anytime I share that I'm doing a show, they're sharing it, they're sending it to their people, whether they can come or not. The fact that it's getting exposure that far out is pretty good. I'm really, the more people who hear the names, the more people who learn about what we do, that's really that's the best part of it. And so also something we do with the show is normally every time after we do a theater a show, I always get the cast together and we do a little insiders podcast where we basically have the cast on. We talk about our experiences on the show. We can kind of hear the creative processes behind it. I was really inspired. One of my favorite podcasts was for one of my favorite TV shows. Actually, probably my favorite TV show period, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul did this. They always had an insider podcast where they would get the cast together to talk about every episode. And there's other shows that have done that. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I used to listen to theirs too. They haven't done theirs in a while. But there's lots of podcasts like that. And there was even TNB at one point, which is Theater New Brunswick, which is probably the biggest theater company in New Brunswick. In my opinion, they had one themselves too. I don't think they've uploaded. I followed it. I haven't really heard much about theirs, but they always did the same thing. They had the actors, maybe the writer, the director. Like they always had people on to talk about it. You can get a sense of the creative process, what goes into the behind the scenes stuff. And probably there's a lot of people out there who haven't seen the shows, but they just love to hear the creative process of what goes into it. So I'll normally start it off like, this is what the show was about. This is where I started, blah, blah, blah. Now let's bring the actors on and we'll kind of get their perspective on things. And that's kind of how that one, it kind of keeps the podcast and the theater part connected. And also in it helps in a lot of ways. Podcasting, I mean, you meet so many people. I mean, big shout out to Podmatch, which has been a big, it's been a great way to network. It's been a great way to grow as a podcaster, as a creative person who's looking to get his work out there and get noticed. It's been great for that. And I mean, you can probably attest to that as well too, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm curious. At the beginning, you mentioned you had sponsors. Does the podcast make money? If so, how did you get your first sponsors, and were you the one that reached out to them, or were they the one that reached out to you?
Yes, well, there's a difference between what we have is affiliate programs, and basically the difference between affiliates and sponsors is sponsors pay for just advertising, just pure advertising. They buy ad space, X amount of dollars for X amount of episodes and minutes and stuff like that. Affiliates are, you partner with certain brands. Like for example, one I see out there that I don't have, but it's Walmart. So Walmart, let's say for example, my podcast story is brought to you by Walmart. So you can put out a message and say that anyone who's shopping at Walmart, use my promo code. I don't know. PS stands for My Podcast Story, and you'll get 10% off. You'll get you get 10%. A 10% cut of whatever the sale is. That 10% goes to you. And so that's kind of the difference between sponsors and affiliates, where affiliates, you get the money through people buying stuff. So really, the more you have, the better. And as long as you manage your money well, so that you're not just, like, I've heard of some people say they get that type of money and they just blow it. If you're lucky to get those types of partners and affiliates, tuck that money away. That's what I do. It's one of those things where you want to grow your business. Like I want to grow this, my theater thing as well too. Any money that comes off the podcast goes right to Corcoran Entertainment. That's Corcoran Entertainment goes towards helping with productions and everything. And then we even talked too about Podmatch. Podmatch has actually become a terrific source of income for the podcast when you're able to book certain people, and also there's an affiliate program with that as well too. Although we should caution people when they hear affiliates and they hear all these types of, people making money off podcasting, if you go into it thinking that you're going to get thousands of dollars just thrown at you, not saying you can't, it's just not feasible. You know what I mean? Like, so it's one of those things of you just have to keep on doing the work, put apply for partners and partnerships, affiliates, and all that stuff. Get more people to hear your stuff. And honestly, the bigger the brand, the better too. I mean, if you got something like Walmart, I think I can't think of one person who doesn't shop at Walmart, like wherever they are. Use my promo code MPS and you'll get 10% off. And if you get lots of people who then do that, that's more money for you, man. Like that's really the key difference between affiliates and sponsors. That's something that at first it was hard to kind of grasp that concept, but then as you kind of go along, affiliates don't pay you just for advertising, and they don't just pay you for this and that. They pay you for people buying the product, using your codes. And they also be weary for some people listening that there's some brands that they're either the sale is on for a limited amount of time. Just know when that contract ends, like, okay, here's a sale, you can use this code for 10% off, but it's only valid for 2 months, say. Just keep that in mind, because then you don't want to run into troubles down the line where it's 5 months later and you're still putting out the advertisement and they're like, what are you talking about? This wrapped. And so then people are pissed at you because you're like, I used your code, nothing's happening, I got overcharged. So yeah, and then also some of them are just, you can partner with us but don't advertise it on stuff. So like, just make sure that the terms and conditions you know about, and it's something that you're comfortable with as well too.
Oh, thank you. So far you've done the podcast for about 3 years now. What would you say is has been the major way your podcast has grown?
I would say probably there was two episodes that really kind of made major waves across the internet. The first big one I did was a couple years ago. A friend of mine and voice actor, Krishna Potenza, for those of you guys listening, 16 and Total Drama. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those shows. They're cartoons from back in the day. A voice actor on that. He had been kind of going through some stuff in his personal life that kind of bled over into, definitely feel free, by the way, guys, on the Corcoran Entertainment YouTube channel, Christian Potenza explains all that drama. It's a 2-part podcast, but about 3 hours in total. That one really blew up and really put my podcast on the map, because Christian Potenza, I mean, we become such close friends now, and we work together on multiple occasions and stuff. And that really set the podcast on the map, I find. It was like the numbers blew up after that. And it was really one of those things that, that's when I started to see, like, okay, I really... I think what I'm doing is important. Like, people are seeing this. I'm getting lots of messages of people just saying, like, great episode. It was a powerful episode and this and that. And then I'd say the next one, it was probably, this next one for me was probably more so a big deal for me, because it was just like, I couldn't believe it happened. I'm a huge Better Call Saul fan, as I mentioned. And I was able to book an actor off of that for an interview back in February. Patrick Fabian, who of course played Howard Hamlin on Better Call Saul, for those of you guys listening. That's also on my YouTube channel. I did a little video one of that. And that was one of those ones where, like, my more publicity came. I even saw a subreddit did a coverage on that episode as well too. It was kind of like insane how it all worked out, and I made lots of emails and lots of back and forth messaging to make the interview happen. And those were probably the 2 interviews where I was like, if you just keep grinding, if you just keep going for it, eventually you're going to get something that is going to really, set you on the map, kind of thing. You're really going to find that, like, if you ever dream about, now it's important to be realistic. It's important to, you going on saying, oh, someday I'm going to interview Bernie Sanders, or I'm going to interview Justin Bieber. It's like, okay, that might be a little out there. I mean, maybe it could, but it's one of those things of, but if you kind of start low, like, I'm gonna get maybe this actor who played a part on this show, that was a smaller part, but it's still from a big show,
Yeah.
So stuff like that. And then actually, speaking of doing that, it was this right here actually really shocked me too. It was, it pleasantly surprised me as well. I had an actor, Logan Schmucker, who he was on 2 episodes of The Walking Dead: Dead City this year, and his character was connected with Jeffrey D. Morgan's character Negan. And so I had him on the podcast back in June. It was quite the honor to have him on. And so we were sharing the Instagram posts and getting some publicity out for it. And who of all people comments on my post but Jeffrey Dean Morgan himself saying kick ass. And for me, I was like, holy crap, Jeffrey Dean Morgan actually commented on my photo. And I was like, oh my God. It's one of those things of, okay, he never actually messaged me personally, but he commented on the photo of, granted, I did, tag the actor and stuff like that in it, so he saw it on there. But still, the fact that he commented on that was really exciting, and it's a good lesson that, just keep, boots on the ground, keep on going, and you never know what's going to come your way.
Thank you so much, Franky. What are some of the projects you're currently working on or looking forward to as regards to the podcast?
In regards to the podcast, you say? Right. We got a lot of great ones this year. I've even had, I got some amazing people who I work with that, not just through Podmatch, but I've been lucky to get so many amazing people, and I still have lots planned for this year as well too. I pretty much committed to the Corcoran Entertainment Show is definitely not going anywhere. That's one thing that I've committed to for sure, and it's one that like the podcast has been doing wonders for me. It's doing wonders for the brand. So we're just gonna keep on going. We got ideas for next year too. It's one of those things I don't really want to say too much. But one episode that I know for sure we're going to be doing is a Insiders podcast for our next show, which is one that I wrote called Fractured Festivities, which is going to be in November. So after we do that, I'll have the cast on. We'll talk about it. Fractured Festivities, it's a family comedy drama that I wrote. Basically, it follows a 75-year-old lady named Judith Allen, played by the extraordinarily talented Patty O'Shea, who is a local actress from around here, and she has her niece, played by Michelle Lilly, and her daughter, played by Kelsey McGee. They move in to kind of help her through her recovery. And suddenly, through mix-ups and a series of funny shenanigans that ensue, Judith's ex-husband Chuck, played by Reg Saunders, and his new wife Vivian, who's played by Kim Volpe. Anybody listening locally, I'm sure. Hopefully, you'll know them from some of our past productions as well too. It's kind of one of those situations. They're all in the house together. How do they move forward? How do they move past what happened? It's a comedy drama. There's moments that I'm sure will make people laugh, and we hope there's moments that'll make people cry. Just keep up to date on our social media for anybody who's in the area who wants tickets and stuff. You can, feel free to follow us on Corcoran Entertainment on Instagram or Facebook. And we'll also be doing our Insiders podcast once that is staged. We're currently in rehearsals for it now, and very excited for it. Very excited for people to see it and what the cast and myself have been cooking up, which is a lot of fun.
I'm curious. So far, you've been doing the podcast for 3 years. What would you say has been a great personal benefit you've had by showing up and being the host for 3 years?
I've learned a lot about time zones. That's a big one. Yeah, where I'm like, okay, it's this time my time, or like it's 5 p.m. my time, 6 p.m. your time, and then it gets there, and they're like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "Where are you?" So that right there has happened before. I've learned time zones now. I mean, like it's 8 o'clock, it's 8:49, or it's 8. What time is it now? It's 8. My phone's turning there. It's 8:41 where I am right now. And what time is
It's
it where you are?
12:41 a.m.
Oh, well, there we go. AM? Oh, wow. So you're in the
Yeah.
morning. Yeah, that's one thing. It's learn time zones. I've learned to make sure we coordinate those. Communication is a big one. Being good at communicating, good at just being a good host that people want to also come back on. You want to have guests who go, "That was so much fun. I'd love to come back again." You don't want them walking away going, "Oh God, I'm glad I never want to do that one again." And in your case, I'd love to come back on yours,
Thank you.
man. I've been having lots of fun on this one. So, those are probably the best things, personal benefits for me that I've really took away from the whole experience.
Yeah, at the very beginning, thank you for that response. At the very beginning, when you started the podcast, what would you say was the biggest creative challenge you had, and how did you overcome it?
More so just what am I doing? Am I making the right call? Am I is this something, are people going to listen? Is this going to last? Is this going to embarrass me? I struggle with anxiety a lot, so that's just something my brain always goes to. It's I'm making the wrong decision. I'm out of my mind to be doing this. Why do I think this is a good idea? Just your brain goes through so many different emotions and stuff, and that's just me on a daily basis anyway. But that was probably the big one for me. I'm putting myself out there. It's one thing when you build a strong connection with your community. Now you're going to be putting it out there for literally anybody in the world to see. What are people going to think? So yeah, that would be the biggest fear, I'd say, is just like, are people going to like this? Are people going to think I'm wasting my time? And you guys can decide for yourself. Am I wasting my time or not? We'll let everyone decide that.
Looking back now with what you know, what advice would you give to the version of you 3 years ago that started this podcast?
Probably quality over quantity. Make sure that the quality is good. It's not always about just saying, I'm on episode 10. I got to get going. Make sure the episodes are good. Make sure the episodes, the audio is good. Make sure, it's worth people seeing. It's worth, it's just worth it. Just make sure that, you make sure the quality of your content is number one. That's always what, that's because, yeah, like quantity, sure, it's good. But then you can look at some shows where it's like 500 episodes later and you're like, how the hell did that get past episode 10? You know what I mean? So you want to make sure that the ones that you're putting out are the best it can be. So that would be my advice to people. Just quality over quantity.
Oh, thank you so much for that advice, Franky. Thank you so much for sharing your podcast story and sharing the behind the scenes of some of the choices you've had to make to navigate the podcast from year 1 down to year 3. And I'm looking forward to chatting with you. The chapter 2 of this story. Where can listeners listen to your podcast?
You guys can find me on all podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, all that stuff. You can follow us on Instagram at Corcoran Entertainment, Facebook at Corcoran Entertainment, and while Corcoran Entertainment doesn't have an official Twitter or X account, you can just follow me just at Franky Corcoran. I always post stupid stuff. Nothing to do with Corcoran Entertainment, but if you just like to just see memes and stuff, feel free to follow me on there. And thank you again, man, for having me on. I really appreciate it. And keep doing what you're doing. I'm really happy to see that there's lots of good is being put out in the world, and I'm grateful to be part of a community with people such as yourself and all the other people who we've collaborated with.
Thank you. I'm curious. Would you be so kind to just mention the name of your show, just in case they want to search it?
Yes. Yeah. The Corcoran Entertainment Show. New episodes every week. Tuesdays, and the occasional bonus episode on Thursday.
Thank you so much. I know the relevant links and the names in the description, so you can just confirm if you want to check out the name or the places Franky just mentioned. Thank you so much, Franky. It's been an absolute delight to just listen to your podcast story, and thank you for sharing that with me and the listeners.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for having me on. Cheers. I appreciate it.
That's it for today's episode of my podcast story. I hope you enjoyed listening to this journey as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. If you found value in today's episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. It really helps others discover the show. And don't forget to join the newsletter at mypodcaststory.com/join for more stories and podcasting insights. Until next time, keep telling your story because someone out there needs to hear it.